All right, we're here in the first quarter, Brian. Randy, we have a special guest. We have Chicago Bears defensive end Corey Wooten on the line. Corey, what's going on, bruh?
Nothing much, man. How y'all doing?
Man, we are enjoying life and doing what we love.
Hey, that's always great.
Yes, sir. So listen, man, tell us about what you've been doing. We're on the phone with you now. You just did an event. Tell us a little bit about what you were doing earlier today.
Yeah, I was doing a little marketing event with this company C10 at Paris Club in Chicago, and myself, Alshon Jeffrey, DJ Williams, Nate Collins, and Sherrick McManus, and Kasim Green. Actually, we were all there. Just mingling, signing autographs, doing a kind of meet and greet. Good to meet the kids. A lot of little Bears fans and a lot of families came out, so it was good.
Okay, now I was gonna say, now you're technically right now still a free agent, right, Corey?
Yep.
Okay, so how have the talks progressed in regards to re-signing with the Bears? Is it obviously Bears struggled a bit this year in regards to defensively period as well as stopping the run. You were one of the constants on the defensive line. Your versatility, being able to move inside and outside, was huge. How have you felt as though there's a good chance you'll be coming back?
It's really up in the air right now. Basically, they're going to let me test free agency and see what's out there, and then kind of go from there.
Okay. So it seems to me, based off you did an event today, and I believe you're living in Chicago, in the Chicagoland area. It seems as though you would actually want to stay here, want to stay in Chicago. Would you say that's accurate?
Definitely. I'd love to be back. But it doesn't always work out that way. We as a defense didn't have a good year as a whole, and I guess we'll see. There's so many defensive players that are free agents now. Myself, Henry Melton, Tillman, DJ Williams, some other guys. So there's a lot of guys who played a lot of games last year, were starters at the beginning of the season, that are free agents.
Aside from you resigning potentially with the Bears, what are some of the other needs specifically that you think that the Bears defensively need to address going into next year?
I think the defense as a whole, I think there's a lot of issues just with different things, gap-to-gap football and whatnot. But, I think every position, we could improve at. There was some injuries and, trying to get the chemistry between younger players and some of the veteran guys. So there's a lot going on. And, I think this year, no matter whether I'm there or whoever's there, I think the Bears will be a lot better this season defensively.
It's so crazy to hear you say veterans versus young players.
I know when you hit 4 years, you're still young as far as 4 years goes, but you're still considered a veteran.
It really, as a Bears fan, and as somebody who pretty much watches all 4 preseason games, all 16 regular season games, as well as hopefully watch the playoffs as well. It really feels like you've been there longer than 4 years. It really does. It's funny. I know that one of the biggest claim to fames, or one of the biggest things that you've done is you actually injured Brett Favre.
Yeah, that's what if I had $1 for every time.
Every time somebody said that to you, and I know you probably like, man, I didn't even try to hurt the dude. I just wanted to sack.
Exactly.
Look, I covered his football camp in Rutherford, his hometown in Rutherford, New Jersey, over the summer. And I remember it was lunchtime. Remember this, Corey? And when they did lunch, they were like, tell us a Brett Favre story. Tell us a Brett Favre story. What is the most randomest place you've been where somebody has asked you to tell that story?
Shoot, probably when I was in the mall one time at the Garden State Plaza in New Jersey, in Paramus. I was actually I was at where was that? Foot Locker or whatever. I was about to get a hat or something like that, and then about to check out, and they're like, "Oh, aren't you that guy that took out Brett Favre?" And I'm like,
"No, I'm not the guy that took out Brett Favre. I'm the guy that sacked Brett Favre. He had me get hurt. He's 80."
Did you ever actually talk to him after?
No, I didn't. They brought him into the locker room or whatever, and he seemed kind of out of it. So, yeah, I didn't get a chance to say anything to him, afterwards, because you never want to see a player you get hurt, and especially with all the concussions, and you see what the long-term effects of this are. It's definitely you never want to see a player get hurt like that.
For sure.
So Corey, would you say that sacking the quarterback is the thing that gives you most pleasure on the field, or what thing that you as a defensive player gets you going the most?
Oh, without a doubt, sacks. Especially at defensive line. I think that's what separates players from the best players in the league from average or is the ability to get to the quarterback, because it's a passing league, and the more you can get the quarterback, the more lucrative a player you're going to be.
If you ask any defensive player, any defensive lineman, especially a guy who plays off the edge, you ask him what he enjoys the most. If he answers anything else except for sacks,
he's probably in a 3-4 scheme.
Yeah, you're right. It's something's there. You're gonna be like, okay, well, what is it then? But man, I really kind of wanted to ask you a question about, one of the biggest, obviously the Super Bowl was huge, but one of the biggest topics that came up was the whole Richard Sherman thing. Mm-hmm. With the rant and all of that whole thing that went on. I watched Twitter a lot, through that time, and most of the Bears fans and everybody who, I have pretty much, I pay attention to everything that comes out of the Bears camp. And I noticed I felt it seemed like you really were one of the people who didn't particularly like, the way he came off during that, at that point. Can you, as a player, obviously you're coming from a different perspective. A lot of people are talking, but these guys have never put on a helmet, never played the game before. But as a player, you really didn't seem to dig it so much.
Yeah, because the biggest thing I think about that is, you want to talk mess between the plays. It is what it is. In the NFL, that happens all the time. But at the end of the day, after the game, people have respect for each other. They dap each other up after the game. Whatever happened during the game is flushed out the system. And I thought that Sherman had brought unnecessary stuff off the field,
Right.
And this should have been handled on the field, between the whistles. And, obviously there's speculation that there was a disagreement at some kind of charity event, and this, it stemmed from that. But, the biggest thing, people have got respect for each other, and they respect the game. And I thought he disrespected the game by doing that.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I do. And of course, I come from a completely different standpoint than you. I really, I personally, I didn't have a problem with it. I didn't. Was he, louder and a little bit more boisterous than normal or whatever? Yeah, it was. But to me, what I felt also was interesting was when they showed the whole mic'd up thing afterwards, when he went over to Michael Crabtree and he was like, "Good game, bro." Now, he may not have been sincere. He may have very well been like,
he wasn't sincere.
He probably wasn't sincere. But he said, "Good game, bro." And Crabtree muffs him, right? So, I don't know, man. I guess, for me, see, trash talk it just doesn't do anything to me. But I totally get what you're saying when you're saying, hey, trash talk on the field is what it is. People say different things. But, once you're off the field, you should be able to leave that alone and be professional, I think is what I'm taking from what you're saying.
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah, and I can respect that.
Definitely.
If you were Michael Crabtree, would you have mushed him too?
No, I wouldn't have. I would have just went off the field and not even said anything to him. At the end of the day, I don't think it's worth it to put yourself in a situation, because everybody watches everything. So, people might have thought he was in the right, Crabtree, or thought he was in the wrong, and there's no need for any of that, at the end of the day, you let your pads do the talking. You don't do it in between plays, those are the tough guys that do it in between the whistle. And I think that's how you play football. I'm old school as far as that goes.
What did you think about some of the reaction that, as far as some of the reaction that were race-based, you had on Twitter, you had people saying, typical black man, loud, boisterous and stuff like that. What do you think about that?
I think that's ridiculous, you know, for people to even call him a thug. I mean, he's probably one of the most intelligent players in the NFL, you know, graduated with a 3.7 from Stanford, you know, was one of the top in his class and played football. You know, you see how intelligent of a writer he is as well. I don't know if you guys read
his blog, his Monday Morning Quarterback blog is very well written.
Yes, very, very well spoken, very, you know, very smart guy. I just think, you know, when he's in his element football wise, he's a different person, you know, and, you know, for people to say he's a thug, I think it's ridiculous.
Well, you know, thug is code word for the N word. You know, that's what people, you know, that's what, you know, people use when it's politically incorrect to use the N word.
Yes.
You know, so they throw that down, so it's safe.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, I think if anything, you know, I mean, I think that's the farthest thing from what he is, you know.
Yeah, I would totally agree with you there, absolutely. But I mentioned, you know, the whole N-word thing, and you know that there's a whole talk about
punch.
Say that, what'd you say?
I said you beat me to the punch.
You know, there's the whole talk about banning the word. And of course, Richard Sherman came up with something else. He came up in the news again today in regards to that, because he's saying that he finds that he has a problem with that word being banned, and you know, he felt that it was borderline racist to only have that word banned. He said, "Why not ban all profanity?" What's your thought about that the banning the word? What's your thought about how, you know, Richard Sherman's perspective? And then also, even to add a third part, how often do you hear the word in normal, just everyday thing, you know, in football situations?
I mean, in football situations, you hear it all the time, you know. I mean, majority in the NFL is black, you know.
Right.
I mean, that's how, you know, especially when people are playing football, I think they use it more so than in everyday life, or if they're hanging out with their friends. I think more so on the football field, you know. Because I guess when, you know, after you make a play or you do something, you know, puts a little oomph on, you know?
Right.
And I think I think that would be hard to do, because I think people would be getting flagged almost every play, honestly.
Whoa. You know, I'll be honest, man. I'm a very big Richard Sherman fan. I really like Richard Sherman. All of the things you pointed out about him, are things that I admire about him. But I've tweeted today, I said, man, while I partially agree with what he's saying, and I do agree that it's going to affect African American players more than anybody, because I know that there might be a few white players here and there that have, quote unquote, a pass to use it, but the majority of people that are walking around saying this in the football field are black players. So black players are the ones that are going to feel this crunch the most, but in a sense, it's supposed to be designed to protect them. So I tweeted today, I said, you know, I partially agree with Sherman, but no black man, to me, in my opinion, should be fighting to keep the word alive.
Exactly.
And being able to be used. That's just me, man. And if you really think about it, I know you can't compare football to different types of job environments or sports, period. But there's no place that you can work in America and say that freely.
Yep.
You know,
unless you rap.
Yeah, unless you rap. Right. You rap, then you good, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about the only other place.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So I don't know. But Randy, you had something?
Yeah. One of the things I've been hearing, I've been reading a lot about this whole issue with the N-word, is that it's coming from a league that's owned by white men, and they're trying to be the ones that are bringing down the law on this word itself. And, you know, it's just, what are your thoughts on that? That, you know, it's a white-owned league that's bringing down the law on a word that's used in the black community itself.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be something like that. I mean, you know, I think the Riley Cooper situation, I think that has a lot to do with this, to be honest.
Incognito.
Yeah.
And Incognito, you know, because there's always people, you know, like Incognito from some of his teammates, Marquise Pouncey or, one of the Pouncey brothers that plays with Miami. I think, I give him a pass to say it, and, other people might have. But then, Riley Cooper with his situation caught on camera.
Right.
And, but I feel like people soon forgot about that, because he was playing well. He was doing his thing this year. People, quickly kind of forgot about it. And then there's a line, people saying, well, somebody would say, oh, well, these black people can say it. Why can't I say it? So. It's kind of a double-edged sword, because it's something that black people identify themselves with, with each other. But then at the same time, you get mad if a white person or somebody else says it of another ethnicity. So it is kind of a double-edged sword.
Take you back to college and in high school and grade school. Well, if you guys say it, why can't I say it? So it's almost a thing of, instead of a certain group saying it and reclaiming the word, everybody can't say it.
And I'm really all for that, man. I really am, because have you ever noticed when black people use that word in mixed company, you ever notice that little pause of uncomfortability?
Awkward.
The people who aren't black kind of pause and they look like they have a look on their face like you just told a family secret or something. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's like, so why would you want to make somebody uncomfortable? Just to me, just from that standpoint, you know what I mean? If I got a white friend and, we're in the locker room and I'm talking to, why would I want to make that guy uncomfortable and uncertain about where he can and can't go with me? You know what I mean? To me, it's just about confusion, man. And just, if you are so attached to that word where it's going to, restrict you to that level to not have to or not be able to use it, I just think you got to question yourself, man. Well, what you just can't find a substitute? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I don't know. That's just me.
Definitely.
I don't know. So, it is what it is. But it's enough of the Al Sharpton talk.
Coming up on Al Sharpton, we have Corey Wooten. Better. And you're a Chicago guy. You're from New Jersey. You went to college in Northwestern, not too far from the city of Chicago.
That's right.
You spent a large portion of your life in the Chicago area. What are some of the things that you like in Chicago? Food, hanging out. What are some of the things you like to do when you're not playing football?
I think Brian could agree with me about Chicago in the spring and summertime, especially the summertime. It's one of the best places to be in the summertime. The winters are a little harsh.
Oh, yeah. I hate shovels.
Just a tad bit. Just being on the lake, just seeing, the waters, super clear down there. Great steakhouses, great food, great pizza, all that. Chicago has a lot to offer. I think the people, I think of it as a cleaner, like New York City and less crowded. That's how I think Chicago is.
I would definitely say it feels like that. Like, having been to New York a few times, I felt that way. Not to put New York down. I mean, New York is awesome.
I was going to say, you two watch.
Yeah, New York is dope.
I'm 15 minutes from New York City. I love New York City. It's one of my favorite cities, but it is a little dirty in some parts of New York City. Just as far as the garbage on the streets, and sometimes it seems like the garbage men don't come around and.
I hope you don't sign with the Giants after you said all this.
Hey, their facility is in East Rutherford.
Right.
Yeah. That's
Corey,
true.
Corey, I got a question.
We have need on the defensive line.
Yeah,
we do. Corey, I got a question for you. How different was it coming into camp without Lovie Smith's voices, and how much of an adjustment was it, guys, without Lovie there this year?
It was definitely different. You go from having a defensive-minded coach like Lovie, then to Coach Trestman, who's completely offensive-minded, does everything with the offense, is an offensive mastermind, and then Lovie's a defensive mastermind. So it definitely took a little getting used to, because we were used to our head coach being in most of the defensive meetings and putting his input and putting his 2 cents in there.
It's funny you said that, Corey, man. I'm not alone. There's several people on the Bears beat through several different media outlets. We were like, man, what would be awesome if Mark Trestman was the offensive coordinator, Lovie Smith was the defensive coordinator, and Mike Dicker was the head coach. We were like, man, we would be awesome, man, because, nobody can dispute the numbers and the success that the offense put up this year. But you could just tell that I know there was a ton of injuries, and to have to play so many young players on the second level of the defense is huge, man. I know it's huge, but you could just tell that the attacking of the football wasn't there the same way as it was even early in the season. It seemed like it was, but towards the middle to the season to the end, it just wasn't there the way it usually was. And for everybody who ever bashed Lovie, they kind of bit their tongue a little bit, towards the end of the season, because you could tell you really saw the impact that was missed there. I mean, we love the offense, of course, but of course, I definitely can say we missed a little bit of the tenacity in terms of chasing the turnover.
Yeah, it's definitely different, as far as the stats, and you could just tell, it just didn't seem like the same, like you said, like halfway through the year, as these injuries started happening, and we lost Tillman, and then we lost DJ Williams, lost Melton, so all these guys going down. Melton's a Pro Bowler, Tillman's a Pro Bowler, DJ Williams was a Pro Bowler for a few years in Denver, so those are crucial parts of the defense. Then Briggs, arguably having one of the best years of his career, then goes down. So when you lose a guy like that, Lance Briggs, who in my mind is the most underrated linebacker in the league, it's tough.
I mean, I think he's been underrated probably the last 7 years in the league. He was, Urlacher was also awesome, but I always thought that Briggs, was a little bit overshadowed in that situation. Tell me, what's your opinion? This is something that I believe in. People can say that, this is the Bear fan in me. I think Charles Tillman is a borderline Hall of Famer.
Oh, I without a doubt. I mean, he's in the 40-40 club of football, which is tough. 40 forced fumbles and 40 interceptions. So I mean, not many people have done that at all. I don't think. So just what he brings to the table, the way he works, the way he's able to get that ball out on a consistent basis. Like if the ball would have went in our direction, I believe he probably would have had, I mean, it's unbelievable, just playing with him. You see him practice it every day, and he gets the ball out from everyone. Matt Forte, Brandon Marshall, Alshon in practice, and and he takes it to the game, and you see that.
I've never ever in my life, and I've been watching football for 30 years, man, and not just watching this like just some casual fan. I mean, I've been, dissecting and analyzing football for a while. I've never seen a player with better hand-to-eye coordination ever.
Oh,
never.
Yeah. The peanut punch,
I mean, it's bananas, man. It is just it's crazy. I mean, the way he takes the initial blow, holds his ground just for a second, and just that quick punches down on the ball. And I'm talking about the Bears have been, your defense has been known for forcing turnovers for Lovie's entire tenure. So they know it's coming. They know Tillman's going to do this, and they still can't protect the ball enough to keep him away from it. And to me, that's when you just notice that somebody's just great at something.
Exactly. I mean, he's one of the best, at that. And, I think he's underrated as far as his coverage skills. I mean, you look at what he's been able to do against Megatron the past couple years. He's been able to shut him down compared to what he does to other teams. I mean, holding him, a couple games. I think, last year in the game he went against them, he held him to under 60 yards. The year before that, in both games combined, I don't even think he had 100 yards. So, I mean, I think he's underrated as far as his coverage skills, because of how he's able to create turnovers.
I would agree. I think he doesn't get some of the credit because of the scheme, and everybody automatically assumes, so he's always got safety help over the top. He's always got safety help over the top. He only has to cover a guy for 15 yards. He only has to cover a guy for 10 yards. I don't think that's fully encompassing everything that he can do on a coverage standpoint. I mean, he plays within the system, and that's part of what makes him great too. So I don't know. It just is what it is. But in my book, Peanut is a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Well, you based in Chicago, man, and you had a knee injury of your own when you were playing for Northwestern. So being in Chicago, and kind of, I'm sure you're around the Chicago sports scene as far as other teams and other players. What is it like for you to see some of the struggles that Derrick Rose has gone through with both of his knees?
It's definitely tough, to see someone go through that because, when you've gone through an ACL surgery and you know how tough the rehab is to come back, and then you see Derrick Rose come back and he just as explosive as he was before, and you see him just getting more confidence, and then he goes down with another knee injury. It's just tough to see, because the way how hard that rehab is. Someone, people don't really realize how tough an ACL rehab is. And, for him to be able to come back like he did, at first was awesome. And it's tough seeing him down. I hope it doesn't affect his confidence. I hope he gets, healed up and, he's back at it next season, because I believe he's definitely, one of the best players in the league. And, I just hope he can stay healthy as far as his knees.
I'm running a story in the Source magazine. It hits newsstands March 19th, discussing ACL injuries in the NBA. That guys like Danilo Gallinari, Derrick Rose, Dr. James Andrews, and Jamal Crawford in my story. Wanted to ask you, do you think that ACL injuries are more prevalent in sports now, or do you think people are just paying more attention to them?
No, that's what I've been arguing, with certain teammates. We've been talking about that. I think back in the day, you didn't see as many ACL injuries. Think about in the 80s and the 90s. I mean, the star players, did anyone ever have an ACL that you could think of? I mean,
yeah. It was rare. It was rare.
Rare. Yeah, it was.
Tim Hardaway. That's the only one I can think of.
He had an ACL injury?
Yep.
Yeah, he did. Baron Davis did. Ron Harper did. Danny Manning did. But it still was rare.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. There wasn't a guy, like Rondo and, all these guys having ACLs. Now there's at least five a year sometimes in basketball, which is unheard of. Basketball used to never happen at all, very rarely. In football, same thing. I feel like back in the day, same thing. The, great players really didn't tear their ACL. You look at a guy like Gale Sayers. He was like, one of the first big names that you heard way back in the day. And, it kind of cut his career short. He's still able to have a little bit of success, but still didn't have the burst and speed that he would have had if he would have tore it, in a generation like now.
So I spoke to Iman Shumpert of the Knicks, and he told me that he believes that it has more to do with the mix of both speed and quickness. Guys are bigger, guys have more money on the table, and guys are trying to get that money. Do you subscribe to that theory, or you think it's more advanced than just that?
No, I think it's more advanced than that. I think probably lack of flexibility has something to do with it. Because you see people are on more weight programs than ever before. I think back in the day, in football and things like that, weightlifting, wasn't as huge as it is now. People in the off season, they train super hard, and they lift and they get strong, but you leave out flexibility. I think that's a crucial part to preventing injuries. And if someone's someone's not flexible, it's going to result in putting pressure on their knees or their hip or this, So I think flexibility has a major role to do with why there's so many injuries today.
And then I follow up with this, and I promise I'll shut up after. How hard was it for you to come back, and how dedicated? You had Derrick Rose with the return. For you to come back from your ACL injury, how difficult was it, and how time-consuming was it for you to come back?
It was really difficult. I mean, I didn't have a huge platform and poster on the return like Derrick Rose did. I don't care about me like that. But no, it's definitely tough. You go through not being able to walk on it to then slowly building up your strength and getting your range of motion, which is in my eyes the hardest part. It's most painful. It feels like someone's stabbing you in your knee. You hear all this scar tissue breaking up in your knee, and you're a lot of pain, and you just gotta gut it out every day. You gotta come with the right mindset and be able to just keep pushing through it. And I definitely think that made me a stronger person mentally. Just being able to go through that and really appreciate every chance you get on the field, because you never know, and that's why you got to play as hard as you can. You got to live it up, because there's not too many chances that you get to play football, and football's average career is 3 years, so I just try to take advantage of every snap, every play, and that's what having that ACL taught me, is just never take for granted the game of football and what it is.
So Corey, with the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl and they have a bunch of physical guys on the defense, do you think that the whole adage that the league is getting softer and softer, is it still true, or do you think there's room for teams to be able to be really more physical with the offenses out there?
Oh, I definitely think it. But I think it's a good thing that they're making some of these rules, because you see some of these guys that played back in the day, that have dementia, and unfortunately, Junior Seau, committed suicide, and Dave Duerson and guys like that, and you feel for guys like that, because it had nothing to do, with them personally. It was just, football did that to them, and who knows, like this league making it safer, I think it's going to benefit in the long run, because at the end of the day, you can replace a knee, you can replace a hip, but you can't replace somebody's mind. And a mind is one of the most powerful weapons, just being able to have that. And, it's a shame to see, some of these guys.
Man, as just this listening to you, man, and knowing you're still a very young man, 26 years old, should have a long career ahead of you, but it's hard not to recognize how much of a student of the game you are, how much of the history of the game you actually understand. Do you have plans maybe to get into some sort of broadcasting once your football days are done, or you have an idea on that?
Definitely. It's funny you say that. I'm actually applying to the NFL has these programs that help players in their transitions, whether they're in the league or they just got out of the league, or they have different boot camps. And I applied to the journalism boot camp and the broadcast boot camp. That's what I want to get into when I'm done. It's definitely something, watching ESPN as a kid, seeing Stuart Scott and Chris Berman,
it's cool as the other side of the pillow.
Yeah. It's something I've always wanted to do. So, I'm taking advantage of these programs, and, it's something I definitely think it'd help. There's a lot of good people that are in the industry, broadcasting and journalism. They're going to be at both those camps, and they kind of teach you the ropes and kind of show you how to do things.
Man, that is awesome, man. It's great to hear you taking advantage of that. Yeah, I mean, you're the type of athlete that people don't worry about. You got some athletes, you're like, man, I hope everything works out after they're done playing. Nobody's worried about Corey. Nobody's worried about Corey. You sound like you got everything under control, man. I really do appreciate you taking this time to speak to us, man, for sure. As a Bears fan, I hope that you are back. I always loved your motor and, your resilience in coming back from the injuries, also the versatility on the defensive line. For sure. We hope you do sign back, but if not, we do understand it is a business.
Exactly. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.